It's 7:40. Let's do this. Have you ever been on a bad date? I mean, like a really bad date. But if you didn't go on that bad date, you wouldn't have met this next person down the line, and you thought, well, but something great comes from it. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that. A call to action. Good evening, Hampton Roads, Northeast North Carolina. My name is David Aldrich, Chief Meteorologist of WTKR News 3 Television. And you are watching First Warning Live, sponsored by Marco's Pizza. And we're talking about the extreme heat. We've got a lot to cover. We've got calls to action. Drink plenty of water. Wear light-colored clothing. But it's more than that. It could be just checking on your relatives, your family, or your neighbors in your neighborhood. I get ahead of myself. Let's talk about this. We're talking about calls to action coming up at the end or maybe in the middle of this live stream, but these are the numbers right now at 7:40. If you're on the call, let me know because I'd like to be able to put your comment on the screen. Right now it's 102, feels like, in Chesapeake, even though it's actually 88. 88 degrees. And I got a note from Patty. It looks like Patty, she's from Virginia Beach. She says, hey, it's 90 days till fall. That's optimism for you. That's some optimism for you. I agree with you, Patty. Thank you for letting me know. It feels like 102 in Virginia Beach. It's actually 92, and 91 Hampton feels like 102. So depending on where you are right now at this very moment, because it's 7:41 now, these are the current readings. And this is now, a heat wave. We've been going through this now for several days on end. When you look at these other numbers, Newport News feels like 107. That's actually 92. And these dew points are high. Remember how it rained a lot over Father's Day weekend? In fact, it's been raining quite a bit in the month of June. And sometimes that water gets in the soil, so you have all these raging dew points. And they're causing the feels like to jump up to 113 in Suffolk, 107 in Moyock. That's where we are. That's where we're at the moment. So if you look at the records, we didn't even hit a record. We hit 94 for the second day in a row, Norfolk. 101 is the record high. You ready for this? What is 101? That's 145 years ago. That was when Rutherford B. Hayes was in the White House. I'm all about context. I'm all about perspective. Because that 101, we didn't achieve that today. Although it felt like it was 106 with the feels like temperature, but you can't really judge the records by 94. Do you see what I'm saying? So for the record keeping, yes, it's an extreme heat wave. There's no doubt about that. But for some who might be keeping score, it was very close for Wallops Island. I believe Wallops Island did touch the record yesterday. Cape Hatteras was very close too at 94. These four sites, the National Weather Service has been keeping records, extensive records for decades and decades and decades. So it's just kind of interesting to see. Now the warm and humid air, as we know, was replaced with dangerous heat. This heat dome is certainly kind of parked overhead. That's where we stand at the moment, and we know it's going to take some patience. The heat advisories outside of our viewing area, traditional TV viewing area, is all purple with the extreme heat warning until 8 o'clock on Wednesday night. Now, before I get too far ahead of myself, I can't do this. I mean, I can, but I can't do this without a great sponsor. And Marco's Pizza has been very generous. They have 5 convenient contest locations because they want to give away free food. Free food? You mean for me? Yeah, for you. Everybody you know. All you have to do is go to our website, WTKR.com/Marcos. We're going to be giving away free pizza for a year on Thursday. We've done this, I think, 35 or more have received the free pizza certificate. This is what it looks like. It'll be sent by the way of the mail service, U.S. Postal Service. But you get basically one large, one topping pizza monthly for the year for free. So you could check off June, then you punch a hole there in July and so forth at the bottom of the certificate. But even if you don't win the free pizza for a year, we're giving away, or they're giving away for no purchase necessary, 104 free cheesy breads. I don't know how many people ordered it yesterday. I would encourage you to do it right now. Just go to Marcos.com and in the promo code at the checkout, I circled it there, WTKR Cheesy is the best way to get the free cheesy bread. This is going to be a fun live stream, I assure you. First, 104, that was the heat index yesterday. No purchase necessary. Did I say no purchase? Yeah, you don't have to buy anything. We just want you to have some cheesy bread while you're watching First Warning Live. So, well, that seems strange. Marco's Pizza must really like weather. They do like weather. And that's a good segue. Let's get back to the weather. We have a dangerous heat situation until 8 o'clock. Some of you may not even know the symptoms. Heat exhaustion, heat stroke. Do you know the difference? Would you be able to spot those symptoms? Faint or dizzy on the left, that's heat exhaustion. Throbbing headache, and you're not sweating, that's a red flag. Because heat stroke on the right is really kind of worse, because you have to call 911 if these symptoms persist. You're talking about red, hot, dry skin versus cool, pale, clammy skin. That's not good, right? If you're feeling clammy versus the red hot. And if we take this one step further, you got nausea, you got vomiting. If you're dealing with these symptoms, it may be important for you to get some medical attention. The rapid weak pulse, this happens sometimes if you're not hydrated. The rapid strong pulse, you may lose consciousness. Are you seeing this? I just want everybody to see it. You may lose consciousness. That's why with heat being a #1 killer related to weather, it's really no laughing matter. You can't just dismiss it and say, oh, it's just hot. Those weather people, it was just hot. We lose 248 people a year on average over the last decades because of heat-related illnesses. And it's very important that you take care of yourself and take care of your family, because it will come down to really just staying hydrated. You want to get to a cool, air-conditioned place. That's maybe common sense. Drink water if you're conscious of it. Take a cool shower. If you're dealing with heat stroke, and maybe it's a loved one, someone who's old, very young, you may have to call 911. I'm kind of curious if you're on the call, if you have some thoughts, you have some something you want to share. See here, Diane, I think, had a funny comment from earlier. She said, Patty Lynn just was thinking it's 6 months to Christmas Eve. Yeah, there's some thought there. You might actually have some relief, certainly in 6 months from now when Christmas Eve comes a-calling, but we're not quite there yet. I think it's going to get cooler. I think I shared this with you yesterday, and I'm going to reiterate again today. I think it's going to get cool again on before the 4th of July. So before Independence Day, this will break. This pattern, this extreme heat will go to the wayside. It won't necessarily be like cool, like spring cool, but if we're back in the mid to upper 80s, that would be certainly a respite, a little bit of a break, as I expect we'll find in time. But we got to get through this heat wave, because as I mentioned, heat exhaustion, heat stroke can be a problem. And did you know it can affect your animals? It certainly can affect your dogs. Know some of the signs, and we're going to leave this up here for just a second so you can kind of soak it in. Racing heart, body temperature high, diarrhea, unsteadiness with their legs, glassy eyes, the fearful expression. Your dogs can feel this. I mean, they're wearing a fur coat after all. So it's really important that you take care of your family, take care of your pets, take care of one another. It's just common sense. But sometimes common sense isn't all that common. Does that make sense? Anyway, I got to keep moving because I want to check in with your comments. If you have something you want to share, I'll do my best. To put it on the screen. How's that sound? Because I know some of you have some thoughts or concerns about the heat. You've been out in it for the last couple of days, and you're probably thinking, enough's enough, Aldrich. I'm ready for this to move on. I'm ready to go on and see, maybe get a whole new weather pattern. And right now, that's not really in the offering at the moment. We have a severe weather threat tomorrow. This is also very important to bring back as I come back on camera. The level 1 for tomorrow is another way to say spotty or isolated severe storms. That's going to be possible on Wednesday, and that could translate not to tornadoes, but we could be looking at damaging wind and large hail. So damaging wind and large hail would be an issue potentially in a few spots tomorrow, and guess what? Thursday as well. Same situation will be setting up on Thursday, because the pattern's not changing. The pattern's not changing at all, and I would imagine it could also be in play on Friday. We're not there yet. Storm Prediction Center usually just usually 2 or 3 days out in advance with somewhat confidence, but the confidence for tomorrow is a level 1, and you can see Thursday covers much of the southeast as well. That includes Atlanta, it includes Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and much of Florida. As we zoom in a little bit tighter here, you get a sense of where those colorings, basically the color covers everything from the eastern shore all the way down toward the Outer Banks. So I'm looking at some of your comments here. Jessica Lynn says she's ready for fall now. Oh, and Denmark says, David, what can you personally do to help get these temperatures down? We're counting on you. Oh, I'm doing my best. I'll do my best here, Denmark, but thank you for your comment, because I know there's a lot that rides on these. People like to spend time outside. This is what they live for the weekends, they live for their vacation, and sometimes it would just be better. Maybe it would be better if we could just get some cooler weather. I get that. So I'm going to continue to work my best to get your comments on the screen. Let's keep moving, because one thing you'll notice, we have Tropical Storm Andrea. What? Yesterday we showed you there was a 60% chance this could get a name, and again, it didn't amount to much. It's not likely to amount to much. I see Jessica, she says she's ready for fall now. Yeah, I'm ready for fall too. Question is, we might have to wait 10 days before we get to somewhat of an easier summer. Jessica, we're looking at probably around Independence Day before we get some cooler weather, but she's ready for autumn. Thank you so much for that. And just so you know, some people have argued, and I think it's a fair question. Did this little disturbance, did it really need to be named Andrea? I mean, look at it. This is the cone. You got to come back on camera. Is this the cone? I'm underwhelmed. I'm not impressed. Maybe you're not. Maybe these things probably don't need to be named. How many names in the hurricane season? I mean, was it 4, 5, or 6 that probably don't need to be named? This is a debate that weather professionals and weather enthusiasts alike often ask those questions. I can't answer that for this, but I can tell you we can check off Andrea. She's now been kind of crossed off the list. That means if your name is Barry, Chantal, or Dexter, you're on the on-deck circle, to borrow the old baseball expression. Aaron and Fernand, you can see the names on the list this year, but Barry is going to be the next storm. And somebody will say, what happened to Andrea? How did we skip Andrea? Because nobody really paid attention to it. It was during a heat wave. Sometimes that's the way it goes. So we'll keep an eye on the next storm, which will be Barry. I just find it fascinating. Some people find it kind of interesting, or maybe a bit of a muse, but it is amusing in some way. Climatologically speaking, meaning based on history, typically it's late August into September. Labor Day is a good benchmark that when there's something popping in the Atlantic, it's usually around Labor Day. Labor Day historically has been a very active time, which is probably why you can probably get a really good deal on a cruise around Labor Day. Just gonna throw that out there. But I just want you to know that don't worry, just because we got Andrea, it doesn't mean we're gonna get Barry tomorrow. It's just what happened today was initially, again, this is from the National Hurricane Center. Satellite radar picture not showing any precipitation now. We have this little broken black line. That's the trough. That's that weak line of low pressure. Basically, it's produced a few clouds today, but it's humid. It's hot, high pressure, in firm control. When you look around the country, we have a few spots. I'm looking down here to the deep south. I know we have a lot of those who are in the military. You might have family in other parts of the country. We've got severe thunderstorms in Orange in Mississippi. Got one there in northwestern Louisiana. Looks like we got one in East Tennessee. I might as well zoom in on here because I know I've got some people watching in the Knoxville area. Yep, we've got one right now in Conklin, Sevier County, till 8:15. And I would imagine you've got 60-mile-an-hour winds not far from Hartford. So be extra careful. Flash flood warnings are in effect for parts of Blount, Sevier County till 10:15. That's East Tennessee. If we zoom back up to the north, you can see there's some other hot spots in Michigan, just north of Detroit. Severe weather going on right now at this moment in this area around Sandusky. So that's until 8:30. Warning, severe thunderstorm warning there. So I just like to give you a perspective. Highs today hit 94 for the second day in a row. And you say, David, I hate to disagree with you, but it felt more like 106. And if you say that, I would agree with you, because we had a feels-like temperature of 106 at 11 a.m. And for a brief moment, Norfolk International had a dew point of 77. Wow, that's high. And we didn't get below 79 for the low. So when you're near 80, it's very, very sticky. No question about that. But I'm just showing you the actual temperature, how it appeared. 99 in Suffolk, 99 Chesapeake, Elizabeth City 97. Edenton had a high of 96 today. So for perspective, normal high is about 88. You can see that at the top left. And the record high goes back to 1880, back when Rutherford B. Hayes was in the White House 145 years ago. Now, if you look at the Norfolk June highs, we've had a string of cool days. It started off rather cool. What are you looking at, Alden? I'm looking at this. We had 3 below average days, and then 2 more here. And then we started hitting 90 on Saturdays. It's like one Saturday after the next. And then we got these 2 93s. And now we've had a couple of 3 of these in a row, making it very difficult. So now if you're keeping score, playing the home game version, it's 13-11. All right? If this is a sporting event, which it's not, but I just thought I'd throw it out there. Maybe you're keeping track, and maybe you have some thoughts, some comments. Ooh. Let me see here. Got a note here. Oh, there's Denmark. I just wanted to get him on here. He's a regular. David, what can you personally do to help get these temperatures down? We're counting on you. I'm just the messenger. Hang in there, but we'll get better, I think, by the 4th of July, Denmark. And then here's Kim. Says, I'm ready to skip summer. Don't do that. Oh, don't do that. I got a note here from Buzzy. Is that what it is? Buzzy. Buzzy says, life is what it is. You're doing a great job, and thank you, Buzzy. I appreciate that very much. Let's see. Let's see here. I see Monica. Is that Monica on here? It is Monica. Monica says the names don't even bring in any fear. Come on now. Well, you know, it's funny because for some of you that like the hot weather, Marilyn Bell is here too. She says, what a hot one. 96 in Tennessee today. White Pine had a storm blow through Newport area, and please stay hydrated. Thank you, Marilyn, for that update. So I got to keep moving. It's now 7:55. If you are keeping track, this is as simple as a 127. What's a 127? It's just something I kind of came up with, 127, because, you know, think about it. When you think about it, we had one day in the 90s in April. We had 2 days in May. I can move this forward. Yep, 90, 91. But when you look at the actual highs in June, of course, we've had now 7 here, 90, 90, 90. You can see that we've had quite a few. And today, those two 90s, again, 94, mark the hottest days of the year thus far. I mean, it doesn't mean we're going to be done with this. We'll have hotter days, I'm sure, in July, August. You just have to be patient. But typically we get 8 days in June. We've already had 7 in June, but a grand total of 10 days in 2025. Does that make sense? Here's the sobering thing. I mentioned that heat kills more people than the turnaround, don't drown flooding victims, right? That's 113. That's more than twice. That's very sobering. So if someone says, oh, it's just heat, get over yourself. Well, people don't handle heat very well. As evidenced by that this tops the list over the last 10 years. This is from NOAA. So, right, rip currents is number 3. So the next time you see a lifeguard, thank them. High five them. Say, hey, thanks for your service. Because you know what? They're the ones telling you to get out of the water sometimes. If there's rip currents or high surf, they might say, hey, it's not safe. They might say, it's not safe to be here. So all that's perspective. It's not to be a downer, but just know that there could be a call to action, which I'm going to get to in a moment, that you might need to get out of the water or maybe go to a safe space when it comes down to a tornado warning, because some of us don't live in structures that can withstand tornadoes. I'm talking about mobile homes and manufactured homes. They alone can be very problematic and put your life at risk. Have multiple sources for information. I encourage you to download our free News 3 First Warning Weather app. First Warning Weather app, and having a NOAA weather radio comes in very handy as well. That is free. But you know what's also free? The cheesy bread. Oh, we're back on that. Yes, I am. Oh, yes, it's good. I had some the last week, the week that we did this promo code. I was enjoying cheesy bread. Now you can be one of the first 104. You don't have to buy anything, but you want to definitely use the promo code WTKR cheesy. Thank you, Marcos, for being here. By the way, temperatures 86 right now in Suffolk. It's 88 in Chesapeake. May not cool all that much or as fast as you wish, but right now it's 89 in Norfolk, feels like 98, feels like 105 currently in Currituck and Franklin at 105. The dew points are outrageous. Yeah, they're outrageous. They're in the mid to upper 70s in some cases. I'm looking at Currituck. I'm looking at Elizabeth City. I'm looking at Manio, 77 for that dew point. Anytime it's above 70, it's a bad hair day, but it's what I call the weather that you wear. You're wearing this weather, right? You're going to go through several T-shirts without hardly trying. Just going from the car to the workplace. It's tough. I get it. I totally get it. But you have to keep in mind, this too shall pass. Maybe not this week, but eventually it'll pass. I'm looking at Hatteras. Look at that. I mean, an 80-degree dew point, that's awfully tropical. Tropical, to say the least. And when you look at these temperatures right now, you've got temperatures, 87 in Knoxville, where they've got severe weather. In Cock and Sevier County, it looked like. And then maybe 94 right now in Charlotte. It's 92 in Raleigh, 92 in Virginia Beach. But it's not warm everywhere because I can see the cool air that's persisting out west. I heard it snowed in Montana a couple of days ago. It might have snowed in some parts where you have been before. Because again, being a military town, you might have reasons to keep an eye on the weather in other parts of the nation, and so I just want you to be aware. By the way, the future temperatures, I love this because what this is going to do for us is going to illustrate and demonstrate what I've been saying. It's going to get cooler, maybe even rainier, by the time we get to Independence Day, if not before, because this is going to right through July 4th. Stop there. There's going to be some cooler air. I think you're going to find 80s, but maybe you're not finding this 105 to 110 heat index that so many of us have been getting used to. Maybe not getting used to, but that's what we've been confronted with, and it's really the hand that we've been dealt. So we're 10 days away. We're 10 days away to Independence Day. I think we'll be independent of the worst of the summer, at least right now, because it'll come back in July. You know it comes, and it comes back in August. It comes back in stages, but we have to deal with the here and now. Tomorrow is going to be tough. I'm not going to mislead you. It's going to be mostly sunny to start. Some clouds will build, and I think we're going to be closer to 97 by the end of the day. That means it feels like it's closer to 108. Some of you were well above that today, some maybe not quite as high, but the isolated severe storms will be possible. That too could also cool you briefly. 88 by 8 o'clock, and the chance of rain, I have only a 30% chance, and that would be about it. Temperature trend, 92 on Friday, 93 on Saturday, 94 on Sunday. It is 8 o'clock straight up. Here's my heat index forecast. 108 goes to 105. Friday, 100. Saturday and Sunday, 103. Pretty tough. Rain chances, 30% the next 3 days. Pulls back to 10% Saturday, 20% on Sunday. I got to get to the Eastern Shore because I got to keep moving. I expect 96 for Saxus, Bloxham, Onancock, 95. If you're in Cape Charles, low 90s. Exmoor, 95. A very high UV index again tomorrow, 91 for Kill Devil Hills. If you're in Nags Head, 90. Manio, 91. And Rodanthe, 91 degrees, expecting Hatteras and Ocracoke to come in about 88 degrees. Now, we talk about these Storm Prediction Center colors. Just for those of you that are obviously not in the weather community, these may not be automatically known, but just want to kind of review them. The green, dark green, represents isolated, and the yellow is scattered. And we've got some of those colors on the national map as issued by the Storm Prediction Center for now through 8 o'clock tomorrow. That would include Rapid City, Casper, Wyoming, and Denver, Colorado. Where you see green in Chicago and Detroit, they too could have some isolated storms, and we've already seen it in the Knoxville area. The Great Smoky Mountains, Morristown, Bristol, all covered, Townsend, all covered under the level 1 risk between now and tomorrow morning. It might even be more active in places like the Adirondacks, up north of Watertown and back toward Maine, and coming back home. There's nothing to worry about here in terms of severe weather. Now tomorrow, changes, right? I see some yellow. I see yellow, maybe you do too, see some yellow in North Carolina. That comes in on Wednesday. So we start here, Rapid City, Minneapolis might have some isolated severe storms. That would be tomorrow. Covers most, if not all, of Pennsylvania, Ohio. Coming back to Atlanta, if you have a flight, you're heading in and out of there. Charlotte, Raleigh, scattered severe storms, a possibility. Virginia Beach, that's why we're under a level 1. But if you're closer to Raleigh or maybe Durham, Chapel Hill, they're going to have some scattered severe storms. That's the expectation tomorrow from the Storm Prediction Center. Thursday's threat looks like this. Maybe a few isolated severe storms in northern Montana. Coming back to Chicagoland, Kansas City has a threat on Thursday for isolated, as would most, if not all, of Florida, Atlanta, South Carolina on Thursday because we're under a level 1 yet again. So I want to take you through the futurecast. Tonight looks okay, right? No storms tonight. It's hot, it's humid, but no storms tonight. Once we go into about 7 a.m., maybe a sprinkle. Some of this, again, maybe just some model noise. Midday, it looks okay, but poof, that's 2 o'clock. Somewhere between noon and 2, we start to heat up. It's like watching water boil. It pops, right? And suddenly these are the storms that might have the characteristics of reaching severe limits. Maybe not, because they don't show that much color. Some of it's to the north, but that's 5, 6. We'll do it again on Thursday. Does it change? Absolutely. Looks like it's centered around Virginia Beach. What time is this? I'd like to see this full screen. Could you show it full screen? There it is. There it is. 2 o'clock. So Thursday, we might have this lather, rinse, repeat situation all over again as we get to fire up some storms. So Wednesday morning, tomorrow, we're in the upper 70s to around 80 degrees. Wednesday's highs are just astronomically high, right? Maybe not record highs, but 99 Portsmouth, 98 Elizabeth City, 90 for Duck. I'm expecting a high of 97 for Norfolk and about 95 for Melfa. Matthews, beautiful Matthews, 98 degrees. Wednesday afternoon, we got a 30% chance of storms, 97, 94, and 98. So here's your first warning. WTKR, News 3 7-day forecast. 95 on Thursday, 92 on Friday. Again, some of these will fluctuate because of the dew points. The overnight lows are still in the mid to upper 70s. That's why it's still going to feel oppressive. Technically, the extreme heat warning expires at 8 o'clock on Wednesday, but it could come back maybe on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. It's really going to be dependent on what the National Weather Service sees as a whole. I got a couple of notes from you. I just want to say hi to you. I mentioned Kim says she's ready to skip summer. Can you imagine skipping summer? Don't do that. That would be tough. I got Joshua Griffin. He says, please bring back the snow. I like that. He says it's too hot outside. I think that was where he is. Oh, and Patty, we got a note from Patty. Patty says it's too hot for people and too hot for animals. It could be. It could very well be. Certainly, you want to check on your furry animals because they're wearing a fur coat and they got to get through this as well. I got a couple of pictures I want to show you with. This is a sunset. I believe this was from Lori. Yeah, Lori came in. Looks better without me in it, so I'll go ahead and show you that full screen. That's a beautiful James City County sunset from Lori. Virginia Beach oceanfront. Doesn't that look nice? Thank you, Christy. We have a WTKR photographers Facebook group, and they like to post pictures. We like to share them, as it's now 8:05. And here's the first landing sunset. I've been there a couple of times. I love it. Sean, thank you for sharing that. It looks like some folks there in the bottom left. Thank you, Sean, for sharing that with us as well. So here again is the first warning. WTKR 7-day forecast. If you have any questions, I'll hopefully be able to answer them. I want to address the call to action here in a moment. But first, if I haven't mentioned, please make sure these are the 5 locations you're aware of, because if you want free cheesy bread, you have to visit one of these 5 stores. You don't have to visit all of them, but the 3 in Virginia Beach, 1 in Greenbrier, Kempsville Road, and 1 in Norfolk, they will be able to help you out. I love the Magnificent Pizza, the Magnifico. You could also get a lunch item like a Pizzoli. Go to marcos.com. If you want to win the certificate, we'll be giving and announcing that winner on Thursday. And of course, you could get the cheesy bread. All you have to do for that is just use the promo code at the checkout at marcos.com. WTKR, cheesy with a Z. Okay. All right, so I got to get back to my theory here, and hopefully, if you're entertained thus far, it's now 8:06. This will probably be more like a long stream than a live stream. I mean, it's live, but I'm saying I might go a little bit long, and I wanted to give you a heads up, because one of the things that I've thought about, and I talked about this yesterday, were the call to action examples. What does that mean? A call, like a request. Sometimes when you're in the weather community, you have no other choice but to say, hey, it's time to get into your safe space when there's a tornado warning. Hey, it's time to get into your interior room or lower level of your house. Some people will do it, some people won't. You might even say when the tropics hit with a hurricane warning, it's time to evacuate. And there will be those that say, I'm not doing that. I don't care what you say, I'm not doing that. And I'm convinced it has to do with the message versus the messenger. Sometimes, if somebody that you know recommends a book, somebody you know, somebody you love says, you should read this book. And you're like, okay, but if it's someone you don't know, you don't. Does that make sense? Or maybe a movie. You should see this movie. This is a great movie. If it's someone you met on an airplane, you probably say, no thanks. But if it's someone near and dear to you, you may be more inclined to follow that call to action. So I wanted to use this as an example. This way I can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. I could share a little bit, maybe overshare a little bit about me, and this way you'll get to know me, so that when we have our next storm, right, the messenger versus the message, because we're all pretty much in the weather community united in saying you shouldn't be in a mobile home during a tornado warning. And rip currents now becoming a bigger problem, number 3 on the all-time list of weather hazards. We've shown this picture before. I think I have it in here. Where's the current situation with rip currents in North Carolina has been off the chart. And here's that chart there, 192 deaths. It's a sobering statistic. It's not just a number. These are 192 people that we've lost in the Carolinas, the coastal Carolinas, over the last quarter century. It's amazing when you compare that to a tornado, a flood, a lightning, wind, tropical. So if you're not learning, and that's a real problem too, if you haven't learned to swim parallel, how do you break the rip current? These are things that need to be taught or maybe explained from someone that you know, someone in your neighborhood. Does that make sense? So I wanted to set the ground rules. What I'm trying to establish here is I'm hoping, I don't know if I can, I'm hoping I can earn your trust with 1 live stream at a time, okay? Because I don't have the 23 years experience in this town like Patrick Rocky did. He's legendary, and he even grew up here, so he had more than just 23 years of being here and being known. So this is a way for me maybe to introduce myself, and I'll try and do it in a comical way as much as I can. Okay, call to action. So what I thought I'd do is what would be the ultimate for me anyway is trying to get somebody down the aisle. So I want to start with one of my heroes. Let me start with this is I want to give Kurt a props. Kurt Williams, 38 years. He's been here since 1987. He just got awarded an Emmy for his prostate cancer series. He was helping other men get tested People said he saved my life, and you might be thinking, why would you follow Kurt's lead? Well, he happens to be on the magazine of a Matlock episode, but then I digress. I think Kurt's awesome, and the fact that I've been able to work with him for about 4 months now, I'm going to follow his lead, because what I'm convinced is that sometimes vulnerability is a strength. We don't think like that, but what Kurt did, he didn't have to talk about prostate cancer. That's personal. He didn't have to mention that, but he did. And in turn, he helped people. So this is kind of where I'm coming from. This is my thought process. See if you can hang with me, because I think in the end, we'll have some great value. Let me go back to, first I want to introduce you to my dad. If you hadn't noticed, he was here over Father's Day. I took him with my mom, but we took him to King Neptune, we took him to Virginia Beach, has a tremendous sense of humor, and we took him to the Pagoda Oriental Garden. So basically, this was on Father's Day just a few days ago. Of course, I took him to the waterfront. We had a great time. When I told my dad, I said, Dad, I'll introduce you to a mermaid. He said to me, he says, son, I don't need a mermaid. I got your mom. Isn't that nice? I think, and if you're unaware, my mom, somewhat famous, certainly when she was younger. This is a picture of mom, but with mom and dad. My dad had done something I thought was kind of remarkable. Back in the early 60s, he drove 60 miles to a town he'd never been to basically, he'd never been to this town, but he drives 60 miles to meet a girl he never met, to ask her out on a date. And I'm certainly glad he did, because if he didn't, my brother and I wouldn't be here. So Dad, thank you for doing it. But I want to show you, West Virginia used to be one state a long time ago. All right, so here's Huntington, here's Charleston. He drives, I believe, 60 miles this way, right? So one of the funny things is that he had gone to, the way it was told to me, a Peter, Paul, and Mary concert. And he's in a bad date. I talked about, if you've ever been in a bad date, the date wasn't going so well, but she turned out to be, call to action, she turned out to be a sorority sister to my mom and dad. So what I find this remarkable is I said, Dad, when you got to Huntington, what did you do? He said, oh, that's easy, son. He said, I picked up the phone book. I said, you picked up the phone book? Dad, she's former, for those of you who don't know this part of the story, my mom was formerly Miss USA. Okay, a lot of things happen in a hurry. Tornadoes happen in a hurry. But she had, in 4 months, her life had totally changed at age 19, because she was crowned Miss USA at Carnegie Hall in August. She visited John F. Kennedy and Vice President Johnson in October, and then competed in Miss World in London, England in November. All in 4 months, her life was a whirlwind. But this picture, how does your dad turn out to be this guy? This is one of my favorite pictures of them, because she looks so happy. There's Dad, but he had a call out. He wanted to get married. They didn't know each other very well. How does this happen? I mean, surely the fact that my mom was rubbing shoulders with Frankie Avalon and with John Gavin, president of the Screen Actors Guild, also in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Ava Gabor came to Huntington in 1962-63. This is the Green Acres. Green Acres is the place to be. Okay, Frankie Avalon, all sorts of famous people. Troy Donahue, Dale Robinson. I think I got a picture of Dale. Dale Robinson was a very famous TV star in shows similar that maybe the old folks will remember, the old timers, I should say, Tales of Wells Fargo, Iron Horse, and so on. But my dad wasn't swayed by any of that. I mean, he had confidence. Long before there was confidence, I said, Dad, what do you mean you just picked up the phone? So I wanted to tell you this story. He picks up the phone, and Helene answers. You mean like the hurricane? No, my future grandmother. Her name, your grandmother? Yeah, I know, it's getting chilly. I'm getting goosebumps. My grandmother's name was Helene. Now, she passed away in 1999. She had passed long before we had a Hurricane Helene. But my dad just picks up the phone and she answers. And he uses that bad date as leverage. Because she said, how do I know you? Like, even this past Father's Day weekend, my mom said, how did you get my number? Because my mom wouldn't have given you that number. He said, oh, I was on a date. I know the sorority sister. He dropped that name. Smooth operator. So Helene, my future grandmother, gives him the phone number and they go on a date. Well, where he goes is to the sorority house. He goes to the sorority house and she's not there, but my dad made a point to be seen by as many sorority sisters as he could. Why would he do that? Because the more they started talking about, hey, this cute guy came looking for you. He used that as his advantage too. Now I gotta tell you this, he was selling these tiles, right? I think I've established these little acoustical tiles by Armstrong Corporation. And he got transferred. Does this sound familiar? If you're in the military, you get marching orders, you get deployed, life happens. This all happened. This is probably, I think, more remarkable because I've left maybe the key point out, is that they got started dating, right? My dad meets my mom in March. They're engaged in May and married in September. He's down the aisle in 6 months. Are you kidding me? Nobody does that anymore. Maybe not, but that's a call to action. That's quick. Very quick. And what I find fascinating is that when he finally did pop the question, this is what really astounds me, is that he was in a hurry. He said, look, I got to go. He said, I just got transferred by the tile people to Massachusetts. That's where my brother was born in 1967, 3 years later. He had the urgency, the call to action, I don't want to leave without you. And so this stuff doesn't easily, you hear these stories, you're like, that can't be real. It is real. It's amazing because they've been married now over 60 years. They've been married, there will be 61 years this September. It's one of the nice things that's kind of shaped who I am. I know that you have stories in your life that if this didn't happen and that didn't happen, I never would have happened to be, right? If my dad didn't go on a bad date, he wouldn't have met the sorority sister that basically led him into Huntington and so on. So I just decided to find it interesting when you look at these types of stories, how life works around. Now, what's maybe even more amazing is that this isn't where the story ended, right? 35 years later, in reverse. Ciao, ciao now, y'all. I ended up going from Huntington, I believe it was from Huntington to Charleston, the other direction, to find my bride. Call to action. I didn't do it in 6 months. I don't know if I was setting a time limit, but it just happened that I was a local TV weather guy, weekend weather guy, and my wife happened to be a TV news anchor. There she is. Did I tell you that we got married in the same church? Nobody does that. We should have married in Texas. She is a Texan, I give her that. But I love this story because my wife, Stephanie, here she is when we were at the waterfront. She had a lot of accomplishments. She had been in Waco. She'd been at Wichita Falls, Texas. She covered the Dallas Cowboys training camp. Now, being an Eagles fan, I was able to overlook that transgression. The Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, the Dallas Cowboy training camp, not the cheerleaders. But I find fascinating is that when I knocked on that door, I got to Charleston at a TV station. I didn't have my pass card. I was doing weather in Huntington. But when I saw her stand up, she did a story. I said, I want to go meet her. But I didn't have the smoothness that my dad had. He's asking her to go out for a cup of coffee. I'm an idiot. I'm asking her to go out on a movie. So kind of weird. So fast forward, my wife, and here she is here, she was given the assignment of doing crime storytelling in Charleston, West Virginia. That was her beat. Her neighborhood beat was to cover all things crime in Charleston, West Virginia. Now, one of the funny things about that is that the boss, Ken Savaji, I think it was maybe Dale Witt, one of our managers, asked her to participate in the Citizens Police Academy. Now, you're going to love this. The Citizens Police Academy, you get in a patrol car, you kind of take notes as you shadow a police officer, you sit through seminars with prosecutors, you learn about your Miranda rights, firearm safety, and all that. Now, she's from Texas, she had that covered. But Citizens Police Academy is an important part of my story because I was on a very strange bad date that didn't want it to be a bad date, but it turned out. I came up with this idea, and I was in my 20s. I thought it was a great idea. I thought, you know what? I think I now know how I'm going to propose to Stephanie. Because we've been dating for a little while. Let me put this on the screen. We've been dating, met her in October of 99, started dating in 2000 in April. I guess I was in the friend zone for 6 months, but when I started dating her, I proposed July 1st, and we got married in October. I had her down the aisle in 12 months, call to action. Now, the real call to action was to get what I hoped to accomplish. I'll come back on camera for this. One of the things I wanted to do, I thought it was a great idea. I thought since she was doing so well, she was news anchoring, she was reporting, she was in this Citizens Police Academy, I said, that's it. Because my dad was in a hurry. He was selling these tiles, he had to leave. He asked my mom, and she had rollers in her hair. Rollers. Yeah, it was urgent, right? It was urgent. I got to go. For me, I I had urgency for a whole different reason. And if you bear with me, I'll get you to the finish line here. The funny thing was, my wife being in the Citizens Police Academy, I thought it'd be brilliant if I had a policeman do a blue light special. Like, woo, pull us over. I said, that'd be romantic. I could maybe have the policeman off duty, of course, off-duty policeman, because I'm a local TV guy. She's a local news gal. This would be great. So I thought, maybe I could get her to like, maybe handcuff us together. That'd be great. And then I'd pop out the ring. This is how I rehearsed it. Believe me, it didn't come out that way. So this was my idea of a cool idea. So fast forward a couple of months, well, by the time we hit, say, July 1st, I had prepared where I was going to propose. I had to first set up with the Charleston police chief. He didn't know me, call to action, but he knew Stephanie. He had worked with her, I guess, 6 to 8 months. By this point, she was turning stories every night at the local NBC station in Huntington, Charleston, West Virginia. But for me to ask a call to action, this police chief, I said, could you do me a favor? I said, I'm Stephanie Dushek's boyfriend. And he looked at me, he wasn't sure who I was, kind of like the Helene story. She didn't know who my dad was. I said, for 10 minutes, if you have an off-duty policeman, I want to go to Fort Hill. This was the beautiful place, kind of like where you could, a landscape to see a beautiful sunset. I said, I want to go to Fort Hill. I'll be there at 9 o'clock. Would you happen to have an off-duty police officer that could facilitate a harmless little, basically a pullover? He looked at me, he didn't know me from Adam, and I don't think he was too keen on this idea. So he finally said, I said, just 10 minutes. He said, I'll do 5 minutes. He said, 9 o'clock, no redo. I said, what does that mean, no redo? He says, if you're not there, 9 o'clock, there's no redo. We're not doing this over again. So I was like, okay. Maybe I should hurry this along, I thought. So I had to get the restaurant. I got the restaurant involved, which was Chesapeake's. Now that's weird because if I lived in Chesapeake right now, which I do, that's all kind of circular. I get her to the restaurant. We lost track of time, and suddenly, before I knew it, they bring out the food, the hors d'oeuvres, all the rest. I found myself saying, "Hey, honey, it's 8:35. I'm supposed to be someplace at 9 o'clock." We had lost track of time. We might have been seated a little bit later, even though I had a reservation. I wanted to get her up on that hill so I could propose. And if I wasn't there at 9 o'clock, then the police officer couldn't do his blue light special, and I couldn't propose in the way I'd hoped. But in the end, she was, we were a little bit rushed through the meal. She didn't want to necessarily pack it up. I said, hey, could we get a doggy bag? She said, what's wrong with you? Suddenly she didn't know who I was. I said, look, we gotta go. I said, it's a 9 o'clock no redo. I want to show you the sunset. And so that's basically where the urgency of this came. And before I knew it, we got up there just like 2 minutes beforehand. It was like 8:58. Policeman comes over. He taps on the door and he says, license and registration. Now, what I was hoping would have been a good giveaway is that we weren't moving. We were just parked. And this maybe was a red flag for her. And I said, well, we better get him the license and registration. Then he leans in and he says, license and registration, sweet pea. And she looked at me and she's like, Sweet Pea, that's the name you call me. I said, exactly. And I was hoping by this point she would have been clued in, but her Citizens Police Academy training didn't come through like I thought it would. But the policeman, as I got out of the car, call to action. I'm asking, hey, we should get out of the car. I said, could you put me in handcuffs? He said, no problem. I had to grab the ring out of the back of the Jeep, so I get on bended knee, and all I remember is my wife's rattling of the handcuffs. And of course, she says yes, but that takes a lot of courage for her to hang out with a guy like me 25 years later. We wouldn't have the fun that we have today. We wouldn't have had our kids. And so sometimes life just happens, and you have to just know this. There are going to be bumps in the road, but there isn't always necessarily go according to plan. So, long story made short, sometimes a date, even a bad date, can turn into something special. I know that you have stories, whether you're in the military or not, where you could connect some dots and say, this would have happened if I didn't have this happen. There's a lot of bumps in the road where in the end, oftentimes things are a lot better. So just wanted to share a little bit of this idea with you about call to action. If you have some suggestions, I'd love to brainstorm with you. Don't forget, we also are going to be talking about the rest of this week with the heat, and if you have other ideas on how to keep people safe, I'd love to hear them in time. Well, keep in mind, it doesn't matter if the weather is sunny or if it's serious. Just remember, make the most of it in your neighborhood. We'll see you here next time. Take care.